Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for your interesting remarks and speeches and highlights of your points on what would be the American investments in northern Greece. At this moment, as we usually do, if you permit me, with due respect to all of you, we usually hold a session of Q&A, and we would like to take, we can take questions from the audience. And I think it would be in English. If somebody has it in Greek, I will try to translate both ways to facilitate. And I would kindly ask to have questions shortly expressed so that the ambassador can reply to all of you. And maybe before that, it is the ambassador, Mr. Megalokonomos, is here. He was a Greek ambassador in Ankara, and I think he has a small present to give to you. If you permit me, somebody to help Mr. Megalokonomos. He brought a book to give it to you, and I think it would be nice. It's a nice gesture.
It is a book of mine. It's just a book of the future of Eurasia.
Okay, fantastic.
I have also a letter.
Okay, I'm an optimist. I wouldn't be a diplomat if I wasn't an optimist. But
thank you, Mr. Ambassador, too.
Thank you very much.
Να παρακαλέσω, δεν ξέρω πόσοι θα θέλετε ερωτήσεις. Θα παρακαλούσα σε όσους τυχόν και δεν θυμάμαι το όνομά τους να μου το θυμίζουν. Ας ξεκινήσουμε. Ο κύριος.
Okay, go Bruins.
I'd like to thank you for the good things you said about Greece, and especially northern Greece, and the optimism you inspired us. But good business requires stability. Stability requires peace, requires no threats from neighbor countries. And in that sense, let me convey to you the feeling we have as Greeks in general, that United States maintains a sort of indifferent or neutral position between the disputes or the bellicose statements that Turkey makes. It's so obvious. And we would feel more safe, or let's say happy or more content, if our good ally, United States, which bind us, a country that is bound to us with common principles for freedom and democracy and so forth, took a more decisive position in that stand. We need stability and we need a peaceful environment, and we don't have that. And without that, we may not prosper in business. What are your comments about that?
So let me answer that question two different ways. First of all, on the question of regional stability, economic development, what the analysts might call geopolitical risk. I think one of the most important things that's changed in Greece over the past few years is that a lot of the systemic risk has gone away. When I was getting ready to come here in the summer of 2016, people were still worried about the stability of the banking system. They were worried about the risks of Brexit, Greece leaving the Eurozone. They were worried about the risks of the government failing to comply with its obligations to the Troika, or the risks of snap elections in an unpredictable political trajectory. Those risks have largely now been resolved, and as President Juncker emphasized yesterday, everybody foresees Greece returning to its status as a normal Eurozone economy in the near future. I'm not sure if you even mentioned the word Turkey in your question, but that was, I assume, what you were referring to. I would say on the question of Turkey first, I would take issue with the suggestion that somehow the United States is indifferent on the question of stability in the Aegean or the territorial integrity of Greece. To the contrary, we have a very, very strong commitment to our NATO alliance and our alliance with our Greek partners. One concrete demonstration of that commitment came from my new boss, Secretary of State Pompeo, who was sworn in Washington, D.C. yesterday afternoon around 3 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, he was at Andrews Air Force Base getting on an Air Force plane, and early this morning he landed in Brussels to participate in the NATO ministerial, where he had the opportunity to meet Foreign Minister Kotsias and many others of his new counterparts. We are strongly committed to our NATO alliance, and as Secretary Pompeo emphasized, we are committed to working with each other as allies who share values and share interests. On the question of managing relations with Turkey, what has impressed me over the past year and a half has been the very great similarity between American perspectives and Greek perspectives. Both of our governments have a strong interest in Turkey remaining anchored in the West, in Turkey continuing to evolve towards European standards of human rights and to evolve towards European institutions, to remain a strong member of NATO. There was an interesting moment for me last October when Prime Minister Tsipras was in his press conference, and he was asked by an American journalist, is Turkey a democracy, and should it be a member of NATO? And I thought he offered a very eloquent response, explaining why, for you, as for us, the only option is to engage and to look for opportunities to build common interests. And I think that's the spirit in which we have approached these issues, with a great deal of respect for Greek democracy, the capabilities of our Greek military allies, and also a strong commitment, and you heard me talk about this in my prepared remarks, to developing the strategic relationship between the United States and Greece, to develop Greece as a pillar of stability, which can help to both build security in the wider region, but also demonstrate to some less than democratic and still evolving neighbors what real European values, European governance looks like. So again, I think we both have a very strong interest in the success of the diplomacy that's underway. And for the United States, there is great appreciation of both the forbearance that Greece has shown in the face of some very difficult circumstances, and I listened very carefully to what the minister said about the unacceptable continued detention of the 2 Greek soldiers, and Washington is fully engaged. We hope very much that they will soon be returned to their homes. But the best option that we see at this point is continued patient diplomacy, leveraging the wisdom and the confidence in each other, Greece and the United States, that we've developed over the years.
Ναι.
Mr. Ambassador, welcome.
Είστε ο κύριος, το όνομά σας, αν έχετε την καλοσύνη πρώτα.
Yes, of course. My name is Marios Dramalis. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to Thessaloniki. I'm the president of Pan-Hellenic Photovoltaic Association of residential applications and net metering producers of electricity. You said that you have a very nice day in Thessaloniki. We're very glad for that, and we hope that the investors also will see Thessaloniki as a point to invest, and maybe in renewable energy. My question for you, if you have something specific for the investments in renewable energy sector, and specific of the photovoltaic sector. And if you have any news of interest of companies specific for Thessaloniki and North Greece. That's my question. Thank you very much.
So in the energy area, the most important recent development has been the fact that GE Wind has come back to Greece and is looking at some substantial projects in the wind power sector. I think this is really an area where Greece can operate at two levels. You know, today when I was out at Thes Intech, I was very impressed to see the work that they are doing in the areas of green buildings, smart buildings, energy technologies. Likewise in Patras, there are some innovative companies, including companies with American connections, working in areas like power storage and batteries. You know, these, as you know well, these are the building blocks of a sustainable energy economy. I think, you know, that's the point in terms of finding new opportunities. Part of the point of the TIF, as I said in my remarks, is to highlight to American investors that we see real opportunities here, that we believe that the economic situation has begun to turn around, and it's going to be up to the government in order to send a message that will encourage these companies to take a look at these new opportunities and to consider bringing significant capital here. Where we've seen the investment activity concentrated recently has been in areas like logistics, also in tourism-related areas. But I'm confident that energy has great potential. There are big flagship projects like the FSRU in Alexandroupoli, which I hope will see an American investor as it moves forward. But we recognize that that's only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the opportunities here.
Με τη σειρά σας παρακαλώ πολύ ο κύριος με το γκρίζο το πουκάμισο και μετά αριστερά ας ετοιμάζεται ο κύριος που είναι στο τοίχο.
Κύριε Πρόεδρε, ακούτε? Κύριε Πρόεδρε, επειδή τα αγγλικά μου δεν είναι καλά, η ερώτηση θα είναι...
Πείτε το σύντομα στα ελληνικά και θα το μεταφράσω εγώ.
Τηλεγραφική θα είναι η ερώτηση.
Ναι, παρακαλώ πολύ.
Αλέξανδρος Καϊδόγλου, πρώην δήμαρχος, συγγραφέας. Λοιπόν, μια ερώτηση προς τον κύριο Πρόξενο. Γνωρίζουμε ποιες είναι οι δημοκρατικές αρχές, από πού εμπνέεται η Αμερική και, εν πάση περιπτώσει, προτάσει πάντοτε την επιβολή της νομιμότητας και ιδιαίτερα της διεθνούς νομιμότητας. Έχει ως κυρίαρχη χώρα ανά τον κόσμο, θεωρώ ότι μπορεί να επηρεάσει, όχι βέβαια δια της βίας, αλλά με τον τρόπο της, για να επιβάλλει το διεθνές δίκαιο όπου παραβιάζεται αυτό. Βέβαια ακούστηκε το επιχείρημα ότι οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες με ίσα μέτρα και ίσα σταθμά στηρίζουν όλα τα μέλη του ΝΑΤΟ. Όταν όμως ένα κράτος παραβιάζει το διεθνές δίκαιο, λοιπόν, οικονομική ερώτηση...
Αν έχετε την καλοσύνη, ερώτηση, μην μας εξηγείτε. Τα ξέρουμε.
Η ερώτηση είναι συγκεκριμένη.
Για να απαντήσει ο κύριος Πρέσβης.
Τη στιγμή που κάνω την ερώτηση με διακόψτε. Η Αμερική, οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες δεν έχει τη δυνατότητα να επιβάλλει το διεθνές δίκαιο σε όποιον το παραβιάζει.
I may translate. The gentleman asked the question. We have international law violations around in the area, and he was asking whether the United States would be willing somehow to help enforce international law in the area.
Let me just say, on the core principle of Greece's territorial integrity, we have made very clear, including from the State Department in Washington, our commitment to the territorial integrity of this country. And I'll leave it at that.
Αν καταλάβατε την ερώτηση, οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες έχουν κάνει δήλωση για την εδαφική ακεραιότητα της Ελλάδος. Το integrity of Greece. Τελεία. Ο κύριος που είναι αριστερά που ζήτησε το λόγο.
I'm not sure. Okay, it works. My name is Thanos Leontaris. I'm a lawyer here in Thessaloniki. I also did a stint at the University of Maryland. So my question is this. Mainly my practice deals with startups, and I know that the embassy is doing great work with startups in Athens. So my question is basically, going forward to the Thessaloniki Expo, are we to expect any events or anything of the sort, seminars, any initiatives here in Thessaloniki by the embassy or the consulate in regard to startup community here in Thessaloniki? Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. And as I said, I am, as you know, I'm really committed to doing as much as we can at multiple levels. So, for instance, we partner with Endeavor Greece, which is an organization that's focused on mid-size, new-to-market companies that are trying to move to the next level. We work with very young people. One program I love is Code Girls, which is aimed at getting very young girls, 10, 13, 14-year-old girls interested in science and technology and computers. We do a lot of work with incubators, and we want to bring a lot of that to the TIFF. We are working with our partners at TEDx Athens to put a positive spotlight on the concept of incubation, of mentoring. I've had very good conversations with our big technology companies, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, about how they want to be part of our platform at TIFF this year. And then looking beyond TIFF, I am going to continue, and we've got a great Consul General in Rebecca Fong, and Rebecca is much more than just one officer. Her consulate is a platform for the rest of the embassy, and we are committed to continuing to ensure that the kind of programs that we're doing every day down in Athens, that we leverage those up here. So, for instance, this week we had a Greek American who has a Internet of Things company, which he operates in the United States. We brought him to Greece to speak at the Athens Science Fair, but he was able also to come here to Thessaloniki. So we're going to continue to do that as well and look for other opportunities to make sure that no future American ambassador will have to deal with the question that I got from Governor Zizikostas the first time I went to see him here in fall of 2016, and he asked me why the Americans weren't more visible in northern Greece. As he has put it himself, the Americans are back, and we're going to stay here in a big way.
Mr. Besançon, please.
Actually, I think I was mostly covered by the last answer, because on startups and entrepreneurship, that's my portfolio at the city of Salonika. And I was wondering, you mentioned all those examples, which are all in Athens, and we're doing great efforts over here. And I don't know to what extent you are aware of those, because we haven't heard any approaches for cooperation or anything like that.
I think the interesting thing about Greece is, and the first task is to get the message out inside Greece, and I have a good relationship with your Minister for the Digital Economy, Nikos Papas, and I'm always joking with him because we're always trading notes on different trips and what we learn about different startup clusters, and it's not just Athens, it's also Thessaloniki, it's Patras. There's some really impressive things happening at the Patras Science Park. I was amazed to discover that there's some very legitimate, successful startups in Ioannina. There's a very successful project at the university in Heraklion. So the good news is this is springing up across the country, and that tells you it's real. I think part of the task is to educate Greeks, Greek political leaders, about how important this is and that it's genuine. One thing that we did at the embassy was I arranged a session of the American caucus in the Hellenic Parliament. There's a group of members of Parliament from all different political parties who have worked on U.S. issues. And I arranged a meeting for them at my residence where a bunch of young startups were able to present on what they're doing. I guarantee you, most of those members of parliament had no clue that this was happening in Greece. And it's a success story. It's something that Greeks should be very proud of, but it requires an enabling political environment. And when we traveled to the United States with Prime Minister Tsipras, we spent 2 days in Chicago before he went to Washington, D.C. And he and Minister Papas and the rest of the team, and I was able to come along, had the opportunity to visit one of our most successful incubators in Chicago called 1871. And I was very impressed by the questions that the Prime Minister was asking, and he was clearly looking for how to take that model and translate it into Greek and translate it to Greece. And I know that his team is very committed to doing that. And again, I think TIFF, because of the American record in areas like entrepreneurship and intellectual property, which is a key part of building a startup economy, and all of the legal and financial enabling framework, I'm very hopeful that we can use our year at TIFF to put a positive spotlight on entrepreneurship in Greece in a way that gets the word out to Greek politicians and Greek policymakers, but also to the wider European audience. Greece has a tremendous opportunity now that the venture fund is online. 300 million of startup capital, which the European Union will make available. And it's interesting to me, I'm starting to hear stories of Americans who are looking at prospects for projects in Greece, which they would establish in Greece so that they could access the European Venture Fund capital pool. So there are real things happening here, and what it takes is the right attitude from governments. I know that here in Thessaloniki, I know Governor Gigikostas and Mayor Boutaris, because I've discussed it with both of them, are very committed to continuing to lift up this story. And the commitment from my side is to see what we can continue to do to leverage that. One project that Rebecca and I have is that one of Thessaloniki's sister cities in the United States is San Francisco. So if somebody can't figure out how to monetize that vis-a-vis the entrepreneurial economy, they're not thinking hard enough. So we'll keep working on this. And my promise to everybody here is that we will make sure that Thessaloniki remains an important part of the work that the embassy is doing to support entrepreneurship, innovation, and the startup economy in Greece.
Είχε σηκώσει το χέρι της η κυρία Νικολαίδου, αν έχει την καλοσύνη.
Ambassador. During your speech, you talked a lot about investments here in Greece, but it sounded to me that you had a major focus on infrastructure, which they're all welcome, and we all like to hear that. But a lot of us here are from the real economy, from the manufacturing economy. I'm one of them, and there's a lot of my colleagues here from northern Greece. Northern Greece was the manufacturing capital of Greece. We had the highest manufacturing capacity here and exports. Unfortunately, due to the disinvestment since 2000, we have fallen, as our Mr. Philippou explained in the beginning. We'd like to see a lot more initiative from the American side for real investments in manufacturing that create GDP, because transfer of shares from the ports and from Fraport and all this does not create new jobs except for the few that they will take, and does not increase the GDP. It's just a transfer of shares. Same thing as Wilbur Ross. He obviously, they're a fund. They bought Paulson, Wilbur Ross, all of those people bought, but did they create any real value in the Greek system. I don't think so. They created it for themselves, or they're making they're making a profit, and they should be making it since they invested, but it's not creating new jobs. And this is just a point, and I would like to request if you have any comments on that. And then the second part would be, would you consider a U.S. business people delegation to visit northern Greece? And we would propose that we can help you, we can be of actual assistance, because we have the people, the knowledge, and the experience to do that.
All really good questions. First of all, let me say, I think, in terms of the primary economy, Greece does have some success stories, including success stories that have strong connections with the United States. I was able today to spend a little time with the team and the CEO from Alumil. And George, we were talking about his investments in the United States, what he's doing here in Thessaloniki, but also what he does back in with his investment in New York, and then also working with the technology park to develop next generation, windows that generate electricity, more energy efficient systems, all of that. The fact is, that's where, for all of our high-end economies, that's where the future lies. It's in taking traditional products and raising them up to the next level with technology. And I'm convinced Greek companies will find no better partners than Americans in that. And much, as difficult as the situation has been for the primary sector in northern Greece, it's, of course, we've had some of the same difficulties with manufacturing in the United States. On your second question, there will be a significant U.S. business component as part of the TIF. That's the political commitment that President Trump has made. And by having Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross lead the delegation, he will bring companies with him. So we will look to AmCham, who is the sort of key on this, but it's a fantastic opportunity for the Greek government, for the government of Macedonia and Thrace, for the Thessaloniki City Administration to tell a positive story about the opportunities here. But the old Arab proverb that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, is very relevant here as well. And but we will be your partners in that for sure.
Ο κύριος Ουγρίνης.
Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. I think everyone in the audience would like to hear your views on the question of what happens if the ongoing negotiation between Greece and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia fail. That is, what will happen in terms of the former Yugoslav Republic entering NATO and so forth. I'm sure you're aware that the Greek public is strongly against any recognition with a name including the term Macedonia. So what is the U.S. position on the issue? Thank you very much.
So I'm going to be very brief on this one. First of all, I won't make any predictions about the future. It's my standard policy. I don't have a crystal ball. On the name issue more generally, the United States policy is very simple. It's to support the efforts of Matt Nimitz in the UN negotiations, and to support the efforts that the two prime ministers and their foreign ministers are now making. We have no answers. We have no crystal ball. But we do believe that it is, as I said in my remarks, in both countries' interests to see this issue resolved after so long. And we also recognize that the only durable solution will be one which is supported by the democratically elected governments of both countries. But we're not going to make any proclamations about how the process needs to unfold. And I will add that for the U.S. side, we have great confidence in the spirit that Foreign Minister Kotzias and Prime Minister Tsipras are taking to these negotiations. And we believe that there has been great progress made, and we hope very much that that progress will be able to be sustained. But time will tell.
Αν δεν υπάρχει καμιά άλλη ερώτηση, νομίζω μία τελευταία ερώτηση θα δεχτεί ο κύριος Πρέσβης.
Well, in Greece, people like to talk. My name is Kyriakos Eleftheriadis, and I've been working since 2013 extensively with private investments from China, Vietnam, and Egypt towards Greece, mainly Athens. Recently came back to Greece to work to expand, like promote Thessaloniki as an investment destination, and people like talking a lot about investments, governmental and private. What do you think that would be a priority in terms of change, like for the bureaucratic obstacles we face in terms to start investing in North Greece?
I think, in terms of where things are, I am convinced that the climate has begun to turn around. What I really hope we'll see in the next couple of months are a few big success stories. Let me give you an example, which is not in the manufacturing sector, it's in tourism, but on Hellenikon. I know, for instance, that we have one of our largest entertainment companies that is looking at an investment that could be many hundreds of millions of dollars in a state-of-the-art entertainment complex that would be part of the Hellenikon development. They have had very encouraging conversations, including at the level of the Prime Minister and with the other concerned officials of the Greek government. But at the end of the day, for all of these companies, as you know well, Kyriakos, it costs money to develop plans, to have staff working on contingencies. And for all of these companies, at a certain point, they'll put their plans back on the shelf because they can't keep burning cash without a clear signal that the opportunity is going to move ahead. So my hope is that this year we can begin to see some real progress on some of these high-profile opportunities in a way that will send a message to the marketplace that Greece is moving forward and that there are significant opportunities here, both in terms of the resources that I've already talked about in my remarks, but also in terms of the climate for investment that the government, both national and local, is making available.
Ladies and gentlemen, closing the event. First of all, we have to thank you all of the people that joined us today. Half of it, from what I see, just an eye look, is from the Alumni Association, and half of it is from the business society. We are glad you are here. We thank the Ambassador Paya to be here. We thank you very much, the General Consul and the staff. That many people worked many hours to make it happen. And we thank you again for being here, Mr. Ambassador. We have previewed after this interesting meeting a small wine and cheese upstairs. We'll have it at the long bar. We will be glad to join us and to stay with your wife as long as you feel comfortable. Mrs. Minister, Mrs. Gigi Costa, Ambassador Papandreou, everybody, we are welcome for a small wine and cheese, and as we usually do it. Thank you very much for being with us.